Greetings one and all to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome, good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Behold the Sweet Fish River. Running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. On the fifth twilight, gouge the chest and kill. On the sixth twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the seventh twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the eighth twilight, gouge the leg and kill. On the ninth twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. On the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain the power of the Golden Land's treasures. Once and for the last time, the witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all the gold from the Golden Land. One shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. One shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. One shall be put the witch sleep, shall be to put the witch to sleep for all time. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch, Beatrice. This sounds very familiar. So, on the 10th twilight the journey ends, and you reach the Golden Land. You really are diligent, Maria. You did a good job writing this all down. Ooh. I forget a lot, so I always write things down. Mama told me to. There was a notebook inside the handbag Maria was always carrying around, and Beatrice's epitaph was copied onto it. Thanks to that, we were all able to challenge the puzzle of the epitaph while walking down this beach. Jessica and the rest had already tried to solve it several times, and had already gotten bored with it. However, since this was the first time for me, I was so excited that I couldn't stop. It really tickled my sense of adventure. Let's start with the first line. Behold the Sweet Fish River running through my beloved hometown. Where was grandfather's hometown again? Heard that before the war, Ushiromi's had a mansion in Odawara, which makes you want to know which Sweet Fish River flows through Odawara, right? Yeah, because that river would be the starting place. Anyone searching for the Golden Land would head down that and search for the key. What's this river in Odawara? Does it have a sweet fish swimming in it? If you're looking for sweet fish in Odawara, it'd have to be Hawakawa. It's famous for its mountain stream fishing. Ooh, I hate fish. Maria, you'll understand when you get a bit older. Lick, 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 salty, roasted sweet fish. Yummy. Even though we just ate, I'm getting hungry again. Shall I bring you a biscuit? Huh? Oh, sorry, that's not what I meant. Don't mind it. Shannon-chan was faithfully keeping us company since she didn't have any afternoon chores for a while. I would have thought that since she's a servant, accompanying us would force her to take care of us and tire her out, but that didn't seem to be the case for her. On the contrary, she seemed to enjoy joining in on the conversation with people close to her age. When I asked, and I heard that she was the sort of worker whose room and board were supplied by her employer, so normally the only person close to her in age was Jessica. Yeah, I can imagine how that might be pretty dull. Okay, so I get that Sweetfish-filled river near Odawara is Hawakawa. In that case, we've got to go down it. Do you find anything if you head down the Hawakawa River? If you follow it downstream, you'll arrive at the ocean. Of course, you'd reach the mouth of the river. And the third line of the epitaph was, as you travel down, you'll see a village. By the way, since long ago the mouths of rivers have been key points in transportation, the large cities tend to be built there. That'd be the next checkpoint. That's a pretty good theory. Just like you guessed, there is an old city there that was pretty prosperous in ancient times. That's where Odawara Castle is. I think I might have gone to Odawara Castle on a field trip once. It really was a wonderful castle. Yeah, I also went there. Even though I live in a Western-style house, it's true that Japanese people feel calmer with the Japanese layout. Ooh, castles are boring. Theme parks are better. Ooh. I see, okay. If we find the gold, the Great Battler, some will generously reserve a whole theme park for a day and let you play in it. Still, Odawara Castle, huh? The hidden gold of Odawara Castle. Oh? It's actually starting to sound pretty good. Well, we figured out that much 2 years ago. The village down the river, where the sweet fish swim in Odawara. We figured it was probably somewhere near Odawara Castle. The problem is the next line. Okay, let's see where the Battler's strange reason can take him. Jessica grinned broadly. She seemed to be implying that she would have solved the puzzle long ago if it was that easy. Damn it. I'll definitely find it and keep it all for myself. The fourth line. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. I don't know what it means by the two, but anyway, the shore. What does it mean by the shore? No, wait. Is there any place near with the shore or Kishi in its name? I've heard there's a place called Soga Kishi in Odawara. Huh. Wow. You sure know a lot about it. Huh? What could that mean? Shan-chan, are you trying to solve the riddle and get the gold too? That makes us rivals. It's not like I'm interested in gold. It's just that George-sama told me about it before. That's because we reached the same conclusion 2 years ago. We even went to the trouble of laying out a map and looking it up. It was about 5 kilometers to the north of Odawara. It definitely found a place called Sagakishi there. However, after that we got stuck. The fifth line doesn't say where the key is hidden in that place. Maria-chan, could you read it for us? Ooh, there sleeps the key to the Golden Land? Ooh, I could read it. Sagakishi is probably large, and there wasn't ever any house built there by the Ushirome family. Not much we can do to find a key in a vast area without any hints. You're right. Without the key, we can't advance to the next line. George Niki, what kind of place is Sagakishi? Let's see. I've never been there, so I don't really know. But according to the map, it's in the mountains. I'm pretty sure it was the base of Mount Asama. Something doesn't feel right. You'd expect a riddle pointing the way to hidden gold to be a bit more exact. I get the feeling that even the part about Sagakishi was a mistake. Well, I think it could be Sagakishi. It could be talking about some house that grandfather lived in when he was a kid, and we don't know about. After all, the first line mentioned his beloved hometown. Shannon, you've served grandfather alcohol and stuff lots of times, right? Hasn't he ever talked to you about his past? The master almost never speaks about the past. However, he talks about the Great Kanto earthquake as though someone else's story. So he may have been living far away from the Kanto area. The Ushirome family may have been living in Odawara, but not all the branch families were. Grandfather often called himself part of a branch family, the least connected to their successor. And that means the beloved hometown might not even be Odawara at all. I've never even heard anything about grandfather's hometown, and I doubt he'd actually tell me if I asked. If the so-called beloved hometown isn't referring to Ushirome's family roots, then Odawara theory is wrong from the beginning. Of course, this doesn't completely remove the possibility that it was Sogakishi. For example, perhaps he lived in Odawara when he was very young, but then moved far away later on. Ooh, I don't understand. What are you all talking about? Ooh. Maria had been completely left out of the conversation. She now was puffing out her cheeks in boredom. So basically, if we can't even agree on the starting point for the dice game of gold, we're totally stuck. But wait. After the first 5 lines, the thing we end up finding is a key, right? Even if you don't have a key, it's always possible to bust through a door. Can't we just skip the first 5 lines and start figuring out the rest? Ooh, I hadn't thought of that. Oh well, we're just wasting time anyway. Let's hear the rest of Battler's reasoning. But in the next part, it gets dark really fast. Shan and Chan frowned slightly, after looking back at Maria's notebook to recall what was written there. Yeah, I was forced to agree. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. It sure does get horrible quickly. On the second twilight, it says to tear apart the 2 who are close. Does that mean to make them break off their loving relationship, or does it mean to literally tear them apart? I don't know, but either way, it's pretty disgusting. Even if we set that second line aside, it mentions 6 people for the first twilight, then 5 people for the 4th through 8th twilights, so at least 11 people must be sacrificed. Ooh, their sacrifices to revive Beatrice. I see, sacrifices to restore the witch. Yeah, that's what it'd mean. Near the end, the witch will be revived on the 9th twilight. That last part is guaranteed. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. So everyone will die in the end. And after that, the 10th twilight is the goal line. Not sure how you're supposed to reach the Golden Land if everyone's dead by then. Depending how you interpret it, the traveler who holds the key may or may not be included in the none shall be left alive part. But at the end, there's something pretty interesting. After reaching the goal, the witch gives out 4 treasures. One shall be all the gold. The problem is the next one. It says the dead souls will be resurrected, right? Doesn't that sound like it means everyone who died in the earlier lines? If you put it like that, then the part about reviving lost love might refer to the pair, torn apart on the 2nd twilight. That's right, and the 4th one refers to the 9th twilight. The 4th treasure is putting the witch revived on the 9th twilight to sleep. If we put a happy spin on all this, it'll be hectic with people dying and breaking up all over the place, but it'll be made right in the end. The awakened witch will sleep again, and everything will be like it was at the start, except with a huge pile of gold. The witch must be pretty busy, what with all the killing, reviving, breaking up, and reuniting people. Not to mention waking up from sleeping. Ha 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 ha. Jeez, just when the tale of the hidden gold was getting interesting, it all gets pretty dubious once the witch starts showing up. Too true, ha ha ha. I laughed along with Jessica. After all, the idea of a witch who was just too ridiculous. Of course, once we started laughing like that, Maria, who believed in the witch, got angry. Ooh, the witch is incredible. She can do anything with magic, even kill, even bring back to life, even give love, even take it. She can fly in the sky, she can become invisible, can even make gold and bread out of nothing. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Eek, dang, my bad, we were just joking. Jessica apologized, sticking out her tongue, but Maria didn't accept it. She grabbed her notebook back out of my hands and opening to some other pages tried to prove that witches exist. The witch existed. Those pages had colorful drawings of witches on them, and well conveyed the fantastical image Maria had of witches. It wasn't the normal sinister image of a crooked nose hag flying around on a broom, but a dreamlike person with unnatural powers who could do anything and wore a beautiful dress and had giant titties. It was just like what you'd expect from an imaginative young girl, flitting through the sky, crossing a rainbow, dancing around all night with a teacup and a teapot that would never get empty no matter how much you poured out of it. With a flourish of her staff, the stars in the sky would come candy and pour down, and flowers that produced sweets would bud by the roadside. To Maria, witches were the only concept that could embody the magical dream that so captivated her. As she grew older, it was the last remaining thing that could give richness to her dull and plain everyday life. That's why Maria believed in witches. She didn't want that dream of hers to be tarnished. That's why she didn't want anyone to tarnish the epitaph which affirmed the existence of witches. Because the witch named Beatrice is Maria's dream. To Maria Chan, the epitaph isn't a guide to the hidden gold, but magic to revive the witch. So it was a single link between Maria and the witch. Maria was very angry and clung to George and Nikki. Jessica and I scratched our heads and apologized. It might not be possible to smooth things over again like the time she got mad in front of the portrait. Maria didn't seem willing to be easily consoled. Unlike Jessica and I, who hung our heads wondering what to do, Shannon Chan timidly opened her mouth. Maria-san, did you know There's a ghost story about Beatrice that has been passed down among the servants. Ooh? Yeah, that's right. Shannon, tell us about it. I don't really know, but it's apparently pretty famous among the servants. What is this? A ghost story? Yes. It seems it's a story from before we were born. I also heard it from my mother. Yes. It has been passed down since the time of the mansion's construction. The servants of that time whispered that the mansion had two masters, one of the day and one of the night. The tale that Shannon told was just like a typical campfire story. There was a forest with a witch living inside it. Then, of course, the witch could come and pay the mansion a visit from time to time. At some point, the ghost story naturally sprouted up between the servants. When the people do the rounds the second time to check the doors, windows, and locks that were supposed to close, they'd find some of them left open. Lights that were supposed to be off when turned on, and lights that were supposed to be on went out. Things like left lying around would disappear, and things would appear when no one had any memory of putting them there. When any of these things happened, the old servants would say that the witch had visited the mansion invisible and was playing pranks. Ooh, see, she exists. Beatrice exists. Yeah, she exists. Long ago, it was always right before leaving for school that I wasn't able to find my bag and stuff. Maria puffed out her chest with an ooh, as though this was proof of the witch's existence. If I opened my mouth, Maria would probably be hurt again, so I didn't. I mean, you heard this kind of story everywhere. Depending on the place, they might blame it on the dwarf or an elf. The only difference is that they call it a witch on this island. Of course, walking around a vast, elegant mansion at night would be a little unsettling. It's an island devoid of people. Since the mansion is so drafty, walking around on the night of a thunderstorm would certainly be eerie. In addition, some servants have also seen the will-o-wisps and glittering butterflies dancing around. Canon Kun also saw something like that when he went out patrolling one night, and recently you often hear servants talking about the strange footsteps heard inside the mansion near midnight. We've whispered together that Beatrice Sama is in the portrait, sometimes making herself invisible, and walks through the mansion. It happened a while ago, but even I have heard footsteps while patrolling at night that resemble these stories. Phew, that's scary. Ah, but there's nothing to be afraid of. Beatrice Sama is another ruler of this mansion, separate from the master, so there's no need to be unnaturally afraid. If you respect her, I hear she won't do anything bad. However, she can be quite terrifying if you don't respect her, right? Correct. I have heard that just before I began working here, someone who spoke badly about Beatrice Sama fell down the stairs and quit after receiving a large injury to their back. Because of that, there was a rumor between the servants that Beatrice Sama's anger had been brought down upon this person. Ooh. Anger will definitely be brought down on Battler and Jessica. Ooh. I'm sorry. I don't want her anger brought down upon me. I apologize, Maria. Of course, I also apologize to the witch. I'm sorry, Beatrice Sama. Please forgive an outsider's nonsense. I'll apologize as well. I'm sorry, Beatrice Sama. Will the witch be able to forgive us now? I wonder if we ever get to hear about Oyoshira Sama in this story. Ooh. Don't know. Witches are fickle, so they forgive when they want to, and don't when they don't. Ooh. That's no good. Maria-chan, isn't there some kind of good luck charm that could prevent Battler-kun and Jessica-chan from suffering Beatrice Sama's wrath? Maybe something like block against magic? By relying on Maria, who was proud of knowing the most about witches, George was trying to revive her self-esteem. Once again, I've got to admire his ability to calm kids down. After taking a moment to cross her arms and seriously ponder whether there might be a charm that could save us, she started flipping through the pages in her notebook. I'd thought it was just a scribbled diary, but there also seemed quite a few pages that looked like they'd come from a book on black magic. Maria solemnly considered a group of these pages, which contained things that looked like magic circles. Apparently, Grandfather wasn't the only one with a black magic hobby. When Maria finally found what she was looking for, she snapped the notebook shut and threw it into her handbag. She then began fishing through the bag's contents. There seemed to be various jumbled up things in there. After a while, she took out various pieces of junk, although they were probably important magical items to Maria, and repeatedly threw them back in, saying they were wrong. It was all a little humorous, just like when Dora... Why is there like a black circle in the middle of this word? I don't understand. took out the wrong tool. Finally, she seemed to discover what she was looking for. With a face that was unimaginably cheery, when compared to the intense expression she had worn until now, she held those out to Jessica and me. Ooh. I grabbed it and saw that it was a very cheap-looking charm. It looked like a bracelet made from a plastic rosary, with a scorpion-themed medal attached to it. Haven't you ever seen those cheap Zodiac-themed accessories? The kind you might win in a crane game at an arcade, and it really looked like something like that. There were 2 of them. Probably one for me and one for Jessica. However, the very fact that there were 2 of them made me feel even more like cheap manufactured goods, making it pretty hard to think of them as magical items. You're giving these to me and Battler? Ooh. With these charms, you don't even need to worry about Beatrice, because scorpions have the power to ward off magic. Huh, really? Didn't know scorpions could do that. Battler doesn't believe. I didn't say I didn't believe, I just said I'd never heard about the lore of scorpions. Ooh. I'd said too much and angered Maria again. Yeah, I don't feel like I said anything wrong. I didn't say, oh, I don't believe scorpions could do that. No, I said, I didn't know that about scorpions. Maybe I should get a book on scorpions. Maria took out her notebook again, pointing out the various pages as she went on about the scorpion had such incredible holy power that it had been used in magic-repelling magical circles since ancient times. I've heard about that from some of the other young servants. Something about how scorpion is drawn as a magic-repelling symbol in sorcery. Really? Ooh. The scorpion protects against bad magic and calamity, and emerald brings peace to the heart. Therefore, its effects are twofold. Ooh. It's true. The scorpion wraps around the emerald and protects it. Yes, that certainly does sound like it'd work well. I really wanted to make fun of those worthless-looking charms, but as I watched Maria explaining with all her heart and realized that she'd found them for our sakes, I started to feel like it might actually work, even if it was just a prize from some game center. Yeah, I mean, some of the concepts of magic is, one, some things innately of themselves have magical power, and other things have magical power based on human belief. So simply, it's like the placebo effect. Your just belief in it can affect it. And largely that can work for a lot of things, both with medicine. Now that being said, there are things that actively do have an effect to themselves. Like morphine isn't a placebo effect, it really will make you stop feeling pain. That being said, if you combine actually effective medicine or technology or magic with belief, well, then it should be even more effective. The same's true of things in terms like anything you're trying to do. Heck, the whole concept of ASMR is that it releases stress simply because the way it makes you feel. Or one could say stuff like Tai Chi or Qigong would be beneficial for your health, not because the movements or breathing are actually good for you, but because, they put you in a calmer state. The material quality of the charm didn't matter. What mattered was the strength of her feelings. Even I don't think of myself as the sort of loser who'd laugh at something like that. Okay, thank you. I apologize to Beatrice Alma, but even if I do end up getting cursed, I'll be safe now. Thanks to Maria's charm, right, Jessica? Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Maria. Ooh, wear it on your arm when you want your heart to be at peace. Put it in your wallet and your money won't decrease. If you hang it from a doorknob, bad things can't get in. It's a really convenient charm. What an incredible effect. If Maria Sama gives it her confident seal of approval, then it surely must be reliable. Shan clapped her hands together, and Maria stuck out her chest. She was totally in a good mood again. It's probably best we let her lead the conversation a bit longer, if it keep her in such a good mood. Come to think of it, she looked a bit bored when we were getting excited about the hidden gold, probably because she couldn't keep up. While eating the cookies Kumasawa-san had baked, Jessica and I asked Maria this and that about black magic. Maria had happily chatted away in response to our questions. Each time, George and Nikki and Shannon-chan would act surprised and chime in. The clouds in the sky drew darker and darker, but we cousins really enjoyed communicating freely after a year of separation. Did I just feel a drop on my forehead? Huh? I wonder. As George and Nikki rubbed his forehead, he looked up at the sky. Considering the color of the sky and the dampness of the air, it wouldn't have been odd for a raindrop to hit him. The wind also seemed to have grown a bit stronger. Ooh, I didn't feel a drop. Only I didn't. Ooh. Don't worry, neither did I. Anyway, I'm sure it'll rain so much tonight that everyone will get to feel plenty of raindrops. That's right. Maybe we should head back soon. Shannon-chan looked down at her watch. It was probably well into the evening by now. It is already time for you to return to your work. Yes. Thank you very much for allowing me to enjoy some time together with you all. Tell Kumasawa-san thanks for the cookies. Okay, everyone, help us out with the cleanup. Shannon-chan declined our help, saying that this was a servant's job, but picking up dropped forks before the waitress has to is pretty much my purpose in life. We folded up the blanket, gathered up the trash, and helped clean everything up. Ooh, the trash is getting away. Ooh. I won't let it escape. I'll grab it before Maria does. Ooh, I'll grab it. Ooh. Maria, don't get your shoes wet. You'll get in trouble. To Maria, chasing after some trash sent flying by the powerful winds was just another game. By the time we finished, the wind was blowing pretty strongly. Probably a good time to head back. You've all helped me out a lot. Thank you very much. It looks like you're really out of time. It's okay if you head back first. George and Nikki perceived from her hurried appearance that very little of her free time was left. Genji's son's very strict about time. If you don't show up where you're supposed to be at the right time, I bet he'll be pissed. We'll see you later. Do your best with your work. Yes, then if you'll excuse me. After making a respectful bow, Shannon-chan ran towards the rose garden. Okay, let's head back to the guest house. We can watch TV or something and relax a little. Ooh, wanna watch TV? Wanna watch TV? Ooh. Then it's decided. Let's all head back and watch TV together. Maria, who wasn't done having fun, agreed once television was mentioned. That's something for everyone out there to consider. What was television like back in 1986 for the average person back then? Keep in mind, I wasn't even born until 1987. We climbed up the gentle stairs and returned to the rose garden. The wind had grown very strong and the roses shook throughout the garden like ripples on the water. This might be our last chance to see the beautiful roses. I'll bet tonight's typhoon ruins them. These roses might be done in by tonight's winds. You're right. Still, I think the roses were pretty lucky. After all, they got to welcome all of you before the typhoon. All flowers lose their petals eventually, but that means we can admire them even more when they're in bloom. That's right. Maria, burn this image into your eyes. At this moment, they're the best roses of the year. Ooh? Burned into eyes. Right then, Maria suddenly clapped her hands. It looked like she remembered something. My rose! The typhoon will send it flying. Ooh. Oh, you mean the sad-looking rose George and Nikki marked with a ribbon? Maria apparently remembered where the rose was. She ran at full speed. The rest of us followed her. Ooh? Ooh. Where was that again? I'm sure it was somewhere around here. We searched everywhere around that area, but it was only a single flower among all the roses after all. Even though we knew it was somewhere close by, we weren't able to find it. The winds, making up the typhoon's front lines, made roses throughout the garden undulate. It was almost like it was teasing us by making the location of Maria's rose impossible to find. Maybe it wasn't here. Let's try spreading out a bit and search. Sounds good. Let's go for strength in numbers. What's up, Maria? As we made to split up and search, Maria tugged on my jacket with an unhappy face. You could tell that she didn't want us to leave that spot. What is it, Maria? What's wrong? Ooh, my rose is here. It's here. But it's actually not, right? Maybe it was on the other side of the flower bed? If we all look, we'll find it fast, okay? Ooh, it's here. My rose is here. Look for it. Look for it. Ooh. Maria stomped her feet in irritation. She pointed at the spot and said it was definitely there, but in actuality it wasn't. Even so, Maria got mad when we said we were going to search elsewhere. We were at a loss for what to do. For a while, we had to stay near Maria and pretend to search through the rose thicket. Ooh. Not here. Not here. Not here. Ooh. Maybe she's saying that it should be here, but it isn't. Maria became increasingly irritated. Oh man, Maria's really losing her temper. Sometimes Maria starts to really care about really pointless stuff. If she gets what she wants, that's okay, but you can't find something that isn't there. That's not good. Just when we were at a loss for what to do, Maria called out in a loud voice, "Mama!" Ooh. We could see Aunt Rosa in the direction Maria was waving her hand. Maybe she wanted to look at the garden one more time before the typhoon came, or maybe she had some business at the guest house. Aunt Rosa was coming from the mansion. She quickly noticed her daughter's voice and came over. My, what happened, everyone? Are you looking for something? Look for it. Mama, you look for my rose too? Ooh. Your rose. We found an unhealthy rose around here and marked it. We tied a candy wrapper around it. But Maria, if I remember correctly, it was growing right in front. And really stood out, didn't it? Unless it grew legs and ran off somewhere, it must have been somewhere else. Maybe you remembered it wrong? Ooh. It is here. It is here. Battler doesn't believe. Ooh. How many times do I have to tell you to stop saying ooh before you understand? Mama will look for it, so stay quiet. I've never seen Aunt Rosa be anything other than kind and gentle, so her anger surprised me a bit. Aunt Rosa began searching as well, so we went along with her for the time being, but we were already more than sure that it wasn't around here, so it didn't take long for Aunt Rosa to realize that too. The rose isn't here. Did you mistake this place for somewhere else? There are so many roses around. Ooh, that's wrong. It is here. Mama doesn't believe. Also, apparently there is a umineko anime that came out like a decade and a half ago. I already believed you and looked hard for it, didn't I? But it isn't here. Ooh, but it is here. It is here, but it isn't. Ooh, maybe someone took it. Then someone must have ripped it out. Anyway, stop saying ooh. Ooh? Who ripped out my rose? Who did? Give it back. Give it back. Ooh. How should I know? Stop it. Stop saying ooh. Aunt Rosa slapped Maria's left cheek with her palm. In that instant, Maria was shocked into silence. Of course, it was only for an instant. When Maria realized that her wish was being rejected, she started yelling even louder. Ooh. My rose. My rose. Ooh. Didn't I tell you to stop that weird habit? That's why all the kids in your class make fun of you. Cut it out. Once again, her palm slapped Maria's cheek. This time, she didn't go silent. She choked as she started crying and began to bawl in an increasingly loud voice. Aunt Rosa was clearly irritated and lifted her hand once more, trying to shut her daughter up. Aunt Rosa? Now, she's just a little kid, so there's no reason to get so serious, eh? I tried to cut in with a bitter smile, rubbing my hands together. But Aunt Rosa glared at me with a serious face, and I realized that I should have stayed out of this. I'm sorry, but could the rest of you go back to your room for a bit? I need to have a little talk with Maria. Ooh. Nobody believes in my rose, even though it was here. Ooh. Look for it. Look for it. Here, it was here. Ooh. But it's not here, so you must have confused this place with somewhere else, right? Ooh. It is here. It's definitely here. Ooh. Then it disappeared. Give it up. Why? Why did it disappear? Why? Ooh. I don't know that. So stop saying ooh. Aunt Rosa once again raised her hand, overcome by emotion, and slapped Maria's cheek. It was strong enough to knock Maria over. Hey, Aunt Rosa? Even if she is your daughter, violence isn't the answer. I stepped between them to protect Maria, who was still on the ground crying ooh. I knew that, as an outsider, problems between parent and child were none of my business, but I wasn't brought up just to silently observe something like this. Don't you think it's weird, Battler-kun? Are there any girls at your school who mutter ooh-oohs? Well, I am in high school, but for an elementary schooler, I think saying ooh is pretty cute. Cute! Saying ooh is cute! Cute! My careless words seemed to have earned me Aunt Rosa's wrath. She grabbed my collar with a terrifying expression. Don't say such nonsense. Do you know how old Maria is? She's 9. She's a 4th grader, not a kindergartner. She still makes that sound during class. Don't you get it? She needs to grow up. Do you know what they say about this kid when they bully her? Thanks to this weird habit, she still hasn't made a single friend. Don't turn your eyes from reality and carelessly call Maria cute. Think more seriously about this kid's future. Ooh, ooh. I told you to stop making that sound, slap. Didn't I tell you to stop it? Slap. Aunt Rosa struck Maria's quivering head, from which an increasingly unhappy voice was rising. Thump. I tried to stop. Aunt Rosa pushed me away. My back hit George and Nikki. A long time ago, Aunt Rosa also thought of it as nothing more than one of Maria's Chan's baby words. But now that it hasn't been fixed, even midway through elementary school, she's been worrying about it a lot. How she talks isn't really that big of a deal, right? She'll never make it as an adult if she's like that. So, even though it isn't fun to watch, this is a problem between parent and child. Well, even I get chewed out by Mom all the time because of how I talk. When they put it that way, maybe even a scene as painful as this isn't something an outsider me should butt in on. Battler-kun, when you were a kid, didn't you have any bad habits that you couldn't fix and that you got into trouble? Well, 1 or 2. On Parents' Day once, I kept getting yelled at in front of everyone, and it was embarrassing as hell. Well, then you can understand how the 2 of them must feel right now. I'm sure they don't want us to be here right now. You understand too, don't you, Jessica-chan? I don't think anyone likes to be seen when they're being scolded. Let's go. We'll return to the guest house. Then after Maria-chan comes back, let's welcome her as if nothing happened. That's probably for the best, isn't it? We thought George and Nikki's point was probably a reasonable one, and we may have been eager to use that reasonable argument as a justification to retreat from this heartrending scene. Yeah, at least it's, I'd say, moderate for that time period. I mean, realistically, the way people would be in that time period, just eventually you just, yeah. I don't feel like saying it. Jessica nodded at George and Nikki, and we all left. We called toward Maria, telling her that we were going to head to the guest house, but she didn't seem to hear, and we felt sort of guilty and shameless after saying it. In that case, look by yourself as much as you want. Mama doesn't care. And then she picks her up and throws her into the rose bush. Ooh, I'll look for it. I'll look for it by myself. Even if Mama doesn't care. Ooh. Have it your way. After blasting her with those last words, Rosa spun her heels and quickly returned to the mansion. Maria probably viewed that as a cold gesture meant to injure. But that wasn't Rosa's intention. It was because the hand with which she had so emotionally struck Maria's chick was still numb. It was because if she stayed there screaming, she might again be taken over by her emotions and continue slapping her daughter's cheek over and over. After Rosa left, Maria was left alone in the rose garden again. The wind began to blow stronger and stronger, and once in a while, a raindrop would fall on her forehead. However, Maria couldn't leave that place. Not until she found that poor, wilting rose. It had definitely been there. Even so, it wasn't. Even though she knew that place, and even though it hadn't been there, it wasn't. Maria bitterly stared at the place where it was supposed to be, and thought frantically, maybe the angle I'm looking from is wrong. Maybe the height I'm looking from is wrong. While gazing at a single point, Maria repeatedly stood up and changed her position, and continued to stare. The wind was getting stronger and stronger, but Maria kept on looking for that rose in front of the flower bed. Kinzo noticed the sound of the raindrops beating on the window. It seemed to be pouring down thickly. It had begun to rain later than the weather report had predicted. Kinzo approached the window as if being summoned by the sound of the rain. The sound of the rain is the sound of silence. The sound feels quieter than any silence, and makes humans remember that in the end, they are alone from the moment they're born to the moment they die. "You're late, Beatrice." Were those words directed at the rainy sky? There was no one to be seen in the direction of Kinzo's gaze. "Well then, let us begin. Let us begin our banquet of miracles. This island has now been cut off from the world. Now there are none who can interrupt my ceremony. There are many fitting sacrifices for you. 4 of my children, 3 of their companions, 4 of my grandchildren, me and my guests and my servants. You may devour as many as you please. The key of fate will select the sacrifices in accordance with the demon's roulette. If that roulette chooses me, even I will become your sacrifice. However, because of that, because I will bet on such madness, I will most assuredly bring forth a grand miracle. Come, devour to your heart's content." I will achieve victory over that roulette. Yes, I'll put everything on the line. First, I'll return the inheritance to the Ushiromia family. Accept it. Kinzo tore the window open, ripped a golden ring off his finger, and forcefully threw it away. At that time, the sound of the thunderstorm rang out, giving the illusion that the lightning had accepted the ring. And, when you are resurrected, surely I will be the one who stands witness. I will survive until the end and watch over you as you awaken. So, come, Beatrice. Welcome to my banquet. In exchange for all that I have created, show me another miracle. Just this once. Oh, Beatrice. I assume Maria's still outside and will get very sick. Also, I would assume she could hear Kinzo yelling. I would assume people in the building could hear Kinzo yelling at that point, but I don't know. It's probably a really big building. And there's also multiple buildings. I don't know how much distance is between them. A news ticker popped up on the TV of the TV program we were watching. The disaster report told how municipalities all over there were continually sending out rain, flood, and wave warnings. Of course, the raindrops beating harshly on the window were even more convincing. This rain's incredible. I too enjoy watching and listening to rainstorms. Still, when it's raining this hard, it also feels like it might stop at any moment. You wish. They said the typhoon's moving slow, so it might be like this all day tomorrow, and even a little bad weather stops the boats from coming. It looks like we won't be able to head out on Sunday after all, just in case I cleared out my outside business for Monday's schedule, and I'm glad I did. Which means it looks like we'll all get to skip school Monday. Living on an island's starting to sound pretty good. Come to think of it, Jessica, you've got to take a boat to school every day, don't you? What do you do when the boat stops running? Do you stay home when it rains and show up late when the wind's blowing? Like King Kamehameha? That's from Hawaii, by the way. If the boats don't come, I stay home. Still, it's not as good as it sounds. Usually I'm ordered to study by myself, and it's not that fun with someone standing right behind you, watching everything you do. During the rainy season, does the weather ever stay bad for a long time and make you miss a bunch of days in a row? That does happen sometimes. Still, I'd get a call from my homeroom teacher every single day who'd sourly guide me on how I should teach myself and how I had to turn in. She can't skip school as easily as you're imagining, Battler-kun. She's got to follow the rules for people that travel to school by boat and get a good amount of studying done. It'd actually be easier just to go to school. In my own room, I get distracted and can't concentrate. after being made to do nothing but workbooks for several days straight. It's pretty hard to handle all that mental stress. When I get into college, I really just want to go to some dorm and quickly say goodbye to this inconvenient island. Ah, okay. By the way, what do you do when the weather's good in the morning and then gets so bad on your way home that the boats are closed? Do you spend the night at school? That actually happens a lot. Because of that, they built some lodgings for the people who can't get back to the island they live on. That's where you'd spend the night. Sometimes when it gets really bad, you can't get back home for a few days at a time. Someone commuting to school or work on a train packed to twice its capacity might carelessly think that commuting by boat would be pretty interesting and fun, but it sounds like it comes with troubles of its own. You hear thoughtless tourists saying stuff like that all the time. I've had enough of island life. I really want to just graduate high school and say goodbye to this island. But they're all dorm schools even for high school, right? Why'd you choose Nijisama School? Of all places. I've wanted to go one of those from the beginning, but Mom's always has gone about how I need to learn manners and discipline from this as his successor, so I ended up sticking close to home even for high school. Man, I hate this island. I just want to go live in a city. Don't care if it rains or even spears fall from the sky, as long as I move to a city where I can wear casual clothes and sandals, and get to a convenience store in less than 5 minutes. Ha 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 ha, hold out just for a little longer. Just a bit more and you'll graduate high school, right? I can't wait a little longer. Jessica stretched out and reclined in the sofa. Maybe it was a bad time slot, because there weren't any interesting programs on, and we had nothing to do but languidly kill time until we were called for dinner. After that episode, Maria never returned to the cousin room after all. Aunt Rosa probably took her back to the mansion. It had to be pretty boring for Maria all by herself while the adults had a confusing conversation. We thought we might as well head over to the mansion to see her, but the weather really was awful, and since there was much time left until dinner, we stayed where we were. At that time, we heard the sound of a humble knock. Jessica answered, "Yes? The preparations for dinner are complete. Please come to the mansion." It was Canon Kuhn's voice. Did he go all the trouble coming from the mansion in this rain just to get us? Couldn't he have just called us on the telephone? Well, I guess servants at work don't always get to take the most efficient route. Just when I was getting hungry. Let's go. George and Nikki turned off the television and stood up. My stomach's been growling for a while. I've always been a huge fan of the main family's dinners, and didn't go to Saw and say it was calf steak or something? Oh, I can't wait. Wait, is it gonna be Maria? Are we gonna eat Maria? Our dinners are always even more fabulous than the usual when the family conference comes around. Even I'm looking forward to it. Let's go, let's go! As we left the room, Canon Kuhn bowed silently and respectfully. Okay, let's go. Is the rain pretty nasty out there too? Yes. Take care not to get your garments wet. I brought umbrellas. After seeing the three of us out, Canon peered into the empty room. Wasn't Maria Sama with you? No, she's not. Wasn't she with Aunt Rosa? Rosa was lying on a sofa in the empty parlor, having fallen asleep before she knew it. She was bearing a burden that the children couldn't even imagine. That's why she only needed to let her guard down for a little before the weariness immediately dragged her into the world of sleep. Realizing this, Genji brought a blanket over to her. When he tried to spread it over, her eyes snapped open as though she'd been shocked with electricity. Ah! Thank you, Genji-san. When she realized that the thing that had touched her was just a blanket, and that Genji had been considerately giving it to her, she let out a sigh of relief. Did I wake you? My sincere apologies. No, it's okay. I hadn't planned on sleeping in the first place. What time is it now? When he was asked for the time, Genji checked a pocket watch that he took out of his chest pocket. It is slightly after 6 o'clock. Rosa gave her head a little shake when she realized that not much time had actually passed, even though it felt like she had slept for ages. Even though she didn't feel rested at all, the drowsiness that had enveloped her must have been pretty deep. Thank you, I'll be fine without the blanket. I mustn't sleep at such a strange time. My sense of time has been completely thrown off. The rain has finally started pouring down in earnest, hasn't it? Rosa finally realized that the peaceful sound that had put her to sleep was actually the rain. The wind's blowing hard, too. I wonder if the typhoon's finally here. That's what they said on TV. The typhoon is moving slowly, so they think they will be like this all day tomorrow. Really? So our last chance to see the wonderful rose garden must have already passed by. From the window, what she could see of the rose garden was completely blurred by the wind and the rain. Maria? That's right. What about Maria? I have not seen her. Did she not return to the guest house? Rosa knew her daughter's nature well, so a chill ran down her spine. Maria was stubbornly honest, and if she was ordered to find something that didn't exist, she would look forever and ever. Even in pouring rain. No. The cousins left before I did, so Maria was alone. Unless someone told her to stop, she'd stay there even if it started raining spears, without even opening an umbrella. Ah, how could I have lost control of my emotions and done such a thing? Even though she'd known about Maria's simple honesty, better than anyone, she'd once again lost control of her emotions and done something terrible. Maria! Rosa pushed Genji away and ran down the hall. The outside really looked like a typhoon, and the rain was pouring down spectacularly. Maybe because of some aspect of the terrain, the winds weren't typhoon class, so an umbrella wouldn't be torn out of one's hands. Even so, it certainly was a windy rain. There was no time to admire the roses being drenched. Anyway, I'm getting pretty worried about Maria. You don't think she's still rebellious? Rebelliously searching for that rose alone, do you? And I don't think she's doing so out of rebellion. Like Rosa said, it's just a fixation sort of thing, where if someone gets stuck on something, basically Maria's autistic. That's basically what happens. I wonder. Surely she wouldn't do it in this rain. Or at least, I wish I could believe that Maria-chan sometimes gets really stubborn and intensely straightforward. We hadn't worried much, thinking that Aunt Rosa had taken her back to the mansion. However, when Canon-kun had come from the mansion to call us and thought Maria was here, we got a little worried. I did not see her in the mansion, so I was sure she was here. After all, Rosa-sama was taking a nap. You didn't see her on your way over here? My apologies. I opened my umbrella and ran as fast as I could, so I did not pay much attention. If he had cut through the rose garden, taking the shortest line between the mansion and the guest house, then he would have just barely missed the place where Maria had been looking for her rose. And it was raining this hard, too. It certainly would have been possible for Canon-kun to fail to notice her. Instead of arguing around here, it'd be faster just to go check it out directly. Aniki, why don't we race over there? Oh, do you think you can beat me now that you've been growing for 6 years? Okay, let's settle this. Go. George, Aniki, and I flew out into the rain. Jessica and Canon-kun followed us. Maria! If you're there, answer me. Maria! It's Aunt Rosa. Hey, Aunt Rosa. When George and Aniki called back, Aunt Rosa jumped at him and grabbed onto him. Where's Maria? Isn't she with you? No, we didn't meet with Maria after that. Maria-chan after. Maria! 6 years ago, Maria was 3 years old. She was a cute and pure kid who just accepted whatever anyone said. But 6 years have passed since then. She's 9 now and experienced the ups and downs of life that should have taught her something. But Maria, are you telling me you're still as innocent, as pure as you used to be? Maria! As I circled the rosebed, something white unexpectedly turned to face me. It was a white umbrella. Maria was crouching down, holding a white umbrella and still searching for that rose. Ooh? Her face, which had turned bright red from crying her eyes out, was dirty with water and mud. It was a truly pitiful sight. Maria, are you still looking? Ooh, can't find it. Can't find my rose. Ooh. Maria had probably been here since the rain started pouring down. Her shoulders were freezing. She looked tired to the bone. But fortunately, since she was holding an umbrella, she wasn't completely soaked. The umbrella probably came from the handbag Maria always carried around. Thank goodness. Seriously, thank goodness. Battler-kun, thank goodness you found her. Maria! I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Aunt Rosa threw her umbrella aside and hugged Maria. Who? It's not here. My rose isn't here. Ooh. I'll look for it with you later. Okay? So just put it on hold for today. Okay? Ooh? Put it on hold for today? It looked like Maria still wasn't able to accept it, but she no longer had enough energy left to resist. Jessica and Cannon-kun caught up with us. I'll have a towel ready in the mansion immediately. Maria, were you here this whole time? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being such a bad mother. Aunt Rosa, why don't we head back to the mansion for the time being? If we stay here, Maria will catch a cold. You're right. Maria, let's go. If we don't get you cleaned up, Grandfather will be mad. Ooh, hungry. It's already time to eat. You did a good job holding out, Maria. Once the weather gets better, we'll all go search together. We couldn't stay in the rain forever. We took Maria with us as we headed back to the mansion. Maria apparently wasn't as worn out as I thought. When she remembered we were having calf steak for dinner, she started chanting, I'm hungry, ooh, and returned to her usual spirited self. Aunt Rosa didn't chide Maria for saying ooh. I see. So she had an umbrella on her. Maria sure is good at packing the right stuff. Ooh, I didn't bring an umbrella. Ooh. What? Then how did you get the white umbrella you're holding? Ooh, I borrowed it. Some caring person must have brought her an umbrella. A normal kid would look for shelter once it started raining. Maria was too stubborn to give up so easily. So maybe that caring person gave up on telling Maria to find shelter, and they decided to at least give her an umbrella. I see. I'll have to thank that person. Who was it? Ooh, Beatrice! The name Maria cheerfully mentioned was the one of the island's witch. Rosa took a deep breath and asked again, trying to do so in a way that wouldn't damage Maria's good mood. Really? That's wonderful. So who was it? Who brought you that umbrella? Oh? Ooh, Beatrice. Ooh. Maria immediately realized that her mother didn't believe her and started crying out unhappily again. So Rosa stopped pursuing the subject. It'd probably be faster to ask whoever lent Maria the umbrella during dinner, rather than ask Maria herself. Father, please at least join us for dinner. It won't be a family conference otherwise. Along with a dull pounding on the door, the sound of Krause's entreaty could be heard. However, the voice seemed to be resigned to the fact that nothing it said would be heard. Kenzo-san, won't you at least come out for dinner? All your children have gathered here to see your face, haven't they? Silence, Nanjo. So the bishop won't work? One move too short. Apparently Kenzo was completely focused on the final battle of his long-lasting chess match with Nanjo. Kenzo's brow was wrinkled as he continued to glare at the game board through his spectacles. Krause's voice didn't reach his ears. Kenzo-san? I'm hungry myself. If I can beat you in chess, you should go to the dinner. Why don't we go down and eat? Go by yourself if that's what you want. Let me consider this next move for a little longer. We are going to finish it tonight. Otherwise, it's doubtful we'll finish before the world ends. Nanjo rose from his seat, hoping this would prompt Kenzo to do the same. But Kenzo's eyes never left the chessboard. He knew well that Kenzo always displayed a blind concentration when it came to chess, but he'd never seen Kenzo concentrate as hard as this. It was almost as though Kenzo was telling the truth, and there would never be another chance for them to continue their contest if they didn't finish tonight. It seemed that no matter how obstinately he called out to Kenzo, he wouldn't reach the latter's heart. Nanjo gave up and headed to the door that Kraus was still banging on. The door to the study opened. Kraus was taken aback, thinking that maybe Kenzo was actually coming out. However, Nanjo was the one who appeared, and Kraus let out a sigh of relief. Dr. Nanjo, is Father... I'm sorry, I couldn't be of service. Right now, this room is Kenzo-san's whole world. Nanjo shook his head with a completely defeated expression. Kraus raised his fist once more and banged on the door, shouting, Father, can you hear me? We're heading down now, but please join us at any time you feel like it. All of your children are waiting for you. His voice was very loud, and he was making a racket pounding on the door. There was no way it wouldn't reach Kenzo's ears. Well, it certainly was reaching him, but he ignored it anyway. However, unlike the time he'd been called down for lunch, he didn't fly into a rage. By now, Kenzo was calm at heart, and almost as though he had taken on a philosophical view and turned himself over to fate. Neither dinner nor the faces of my children could interest me in the slightest. I will only leave here if Beatrice is resurrected, or if I am chosen as a sacrifice for the key. The demon's roulette has already started spinning. What meaning does dinner have at this point? As though the painfully loud banging on the door completely failed to enter his hearing, Kenzo silently thought about his next chess move, still in his philosophical state. Just as always, Kenzo's figure couldn't be seen anywhere in the dining hall. Kraus, wearing a bitter smile, returned with Nanjo. Father says he's still not feeling well. He truly regrets missing this once-a-year opportunity to sit together with his gathered family. Ava and Rudolph sniggered. Given Kenzo's personality, there was no way he'd show signs of regret, and none of his relatives showed any regret at his absence. Then why don't we start dinner? Goda, begin. Certainly. Well then, if you allow me. When Goda was told to start the family conference dinner, his biggest time to shine of the whole year, he nodded with a broad grin. May I ask who lent Maria an umbrella? When Rosa timidly cut through the silence in the dining hall, everyone noticed. An umbrella? What's this about? A short while back, Maria was in the rose garden when it started raining, and she apparently borrowed a white umbrella from someone. I wanted to thank them. It wasn't one of us. After you left, we moved to a different room and had a friendly chat with the whole time. Ah, that's right. Even after the siblings had a real friendly chat, the word friendly fell awkwardly from Hideyoshi's lips, so even those who hadn't been present could tell the conversation hadn't been a pleasant one. At the very least, it couldn't have been me, Ava, Rudolph, Hideyoshi-san, or Kairi-san. We were together the whole time, even after Natsui Nissan and Rosa-san left, the whole time until the meal started. Nissan went up to the study with Genji to call Father. At that time, the rest of us went straight to the dining hall. So it wasn't one of us. Couldn't it have been a servant kind enough to lend an umbrella? So it was you, Goda-san. I have been in the kitchen the whole time preparing. My sincere apologies. Goda looked slightly disappointed about missing this chance to show off. At the time, Shannon and Kumasawa-san appeared, pushing a serving cart loaded with hors d'oeuvres. Then what about Kumasawa-san or Shannon-chan? Yes? Has something gone wrong? Because Shannon had come in part way, she shrank back, mistakenly thinking that the others were searching for the one responsible for some error. It isn't like that. It started to rain when Maria-chan was alone in the rose garden. After that, someone lent her an umbrella. Aunt Rosa said she wanted to thank that person. Ooh? Beatrice! Maria, her mouth a thin line, said the witch's name in a small voice. Aunt Rosa explained the situation one more time. As she did, Kumasawa-san cackled. Ho, it wasn't us. Shannon-san and I were preparing the rooms together, so we did not go outside. Yes. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be of assistance. Preparing the rooms? What do you mean by that? Because of the rain. We thought it would be troublesome for all the guests to return to the guest house. So the servants were ordered to prepare the guest rooms inside the mansion. Really? How thoughtful. Yes, it certainly would be rude to chase us outside in this rain. Could you give it a rest? Yes. After receiving the order from Madame. Again, do you guys say Madame or Madam? Kumasawa Kanin-kun and I started preparing the rooms. Then it became time for dinner, so Genji-sama ordered Kanin-kun to go to the guest house and summon the children. Yes, so did Kanin-san find Maria on the way to the guest house and hand her an umbrella? Ooh, wrong! The person who had actually received the umbrella denied it. Rosa was troubled. All she wanted to do was give a word of thanks to the person who had lent the umbrella, but she couldn't find them, and she thought she'd ask like this everyone gathered for dinner would work immediately. Then, was it you, Natsui-san? I'm sorry. After everyone's friendly chat, my headache was so bad that I have been resting in my room. Therefore, I did not go outside. Then, who was it? George-kun and the kids? That can't be right. No, it wasn't us. We were watching television in the guest house the whole time. Actually, we thought Maria had just gone back to the mansion with you. Then Kanin-kun came and he asked us whether Maria was with us. That's when we first realized she wasn't in the mansion. I mean, if it were me, I'd have grabbed her hand and pulled her under the roof before giving her an umbrella. Rosa was completely baffled. One by one, the relatives and the servants denied that they had done it, even though it really wasn't something anyone would need to hide. So by process of elimination, the number of remaining candidates wasn't large. Of course, it wasn't me. Right after it began raining, I visited Kinzo-san's room, and I was playing chess with him until now. Just now. Which means that it wasn't grandfather. I still have to say, Kairi. Wait a sec. Isn't this starting to get a bit weird? Who's left? Then who was it? Genji-san? Huh? Wait a second, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm searching for some culprit or anything. All I want to do as a mother is thank the person who gave Maria an umbrella in the middle of the rain. Giving an umbrella to a girl loitering in the rain was something to be praised, not hidden. Despite that, no one raised their hand. Why not? Everyone started whispering about how strange this was getting. Calm down, Rosa. Why don't we just ask the person who was lent the umbrella? That's what everyone had been thinking since the beginning. They were also scratching their heads at why she didn't just ask Maria, who had been given the umbrella. However, Rosa bit her lower lip. After all, she had already knew how Maria would answer if asked. Of course. Rudolph-kun here's got it right. Maria-chan, tell your uncle. Who lent you the umbrella? Beatrice! The dining hall was wrapped in silence for an instant, but it was soon interrupted by a burst of laughter. Ha 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 ha! I see, so Beatrice, the witch of the forest, felt pity and lent her an umbrella. What a lovely story. Rosa, there you have it. Rosa couldn't believe it. Even though she just wanted to say thanks for the umbrella, why did everything have to be so clouded in smoke? Ooh, just like Uncle Kraus said. Beatrice, let me borrow it. Ooh? Ah, isn't that wonderful? We should all be jealous of such purity. What do you think, everyone? Ha 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 ha. Kraus was laughing with a face that was clearly mocking, but Maria was overjoyed, apparently convinced that her claim was being believed. How did that work? Does that mean a witch really appeared and lent her an umbrella? Jessica asked me in a small voice that wouldn't carry over to Maria, who was sitting across from me. Has Maria ever been the type to make jokes? If we'd heard that kind of story pop out of my old bastard's mouth, we would have just taken it as another joke. However, it was hard to explain away like that when Maria said it. This was getting pretty unnerving. No way. It does kind of remind me. By the way, I made a video about an Alice in Wonderland thing. During it, I mentioned how at the start of the thing, like, I'm pretty sure Alice was just having heat stroke, which led to everything happening in the story. Beyond that, I also answered the riddle of how is a raven like a writing desk. No way, she's always been very frank and serious. She's the sort who'd believe any joke, even one's normal people could instantly tell were lies. I've never even heard of her cracking a joke. Aunt Rosa probably knew that better than anyone. It appeared that because of this weird situation, she had no idea what was going on anymore. So if Maria says she borrowed an umbrella from Beatrice, that must mean it really was Beatrice. We're talking about Maria here, so I can't think of it as some kind of weird metaphor or joke. It might be best to take what she says at face value. Then what's going on? Are you saying Genji-san or someone put on the fancy dress from the portrait and gave Maria the umbrella? I'm not sure about that. Actually, that's what I want to know. Jessica shrugged jokingly, but her expression didn't completely match her attitude. Once the hors d'oeuvres were set out and Goda showed off his vast store of knowledge, the meal began. A couple casual chats broke out here and there, but they seemed somehow distant, and the meal ended up being so quiet that you couldn't ignore the sound of the rain sneaking into the dinner hall. Kumasawa and Shannon, pushing the serving cart, ran into Genji and Kanon on their way to the kitchen. Oh, it's Genji-san. Did you lend Maria-san an umbrella? An umbrella? What are you talking about? Well, I heard that when it started raining, Maria-san was alone in the rose garden. It seems she borrowed an umbrella from someone there, but we don't know who it was. It wasn't me. After all, I actually thought Maria-sama was in the guest house. When Battler-sama first found her, she was already holding a white umbrella. My apologies, but it was not me either. You gotta say either or either. Then it could actually be the master? Both in the dining hall and right there, everyone had stated that they hadn't done it. That left only Kenzo, but maybe he went walking down the corridor for some reason. When he just happened to see Maria-sama in the rose garden without even an umbrella? The master is not particularly fond of Maria-sama. I agree. I can't imagine that for Maria-sama's sake he'd go to all the trouble of descending the stairs with an umbrella. Oh my, how troublesome. Does that mean the one who lent Maria-sama an umbrella really was Beatrice-sama? Ho ho ho. Kumasawa laughed, just like the relatives in the dining hall who had laughed it off. She couldn't think of any other way to break through the smoke veiling the current situation. Just then the crisp sound of hands clapping twice rang through the hallway. They all turned around at once to see Goda coming out of the dining hall. Okay, everyone. When serving a dinner, proper timing while setting at the table is essential. Please immediately see to setting out the soup. Genji-san, the women are in the middle of an important job, so please don't get in their way. Kanon glared at Goda for being rude to Genji, a person Kanon respected. Genji, realizing this, patted Kanon once on the shoulders as a warning. Kanon reluctantly turned away and returned to his expression to normal. Obey Goda's instructions. Hurry and prepare the dinner table. Come now, there's no time. Don't dawdle. Hurry! Goda grabbed the serving cart from Shannon and steadily pushed it towards the kitchen. Then please allow us to return to the kitchen. After all, Goda-san's temper is very short, ho ho ho. But please excuse me as well. Kumasawa and Shannon left. Only Genji and Kanon remained. Through the window, the darkness of the rainy night could be seen, along with the occasional thunderbolts. Genji-sama. Did Beatrice-sama really return? I don't know. Shall I inform the master? That is not necessary. If she truly has returned, she will eventually appear before the master of her own accord. Furthermore, she is a fickle person. It would be pointless to report to the master only to find that she does not appear. I wonder if this means the master's ceremony has already begun. Probably. However, that has nothing to do with furniture like us. We must continue to return the favor we received from the master until our final moments. Yes, that is furniture's duty. The thunder crashed once more, except for those instants when lightning lit up the sky. Nothing could be seen out the window but the darkness of night. Just as humans rule when the sun is up, those that are not human rule when the sun is down. The darkness of night that now surrounded Rokkenjima was ruled by another master, not the Ushiromiya family. Did this master take pity on Maria when she was alone and being pummeled by the rain in the rose garden and lending her an umbrella? Kanon looked at the rose garden's lights, dimly visible beyond the window. The dim lights weren't enough to illuminate the surrounding area. Looking at those lights felt like making eye contact with the witch, and Kanon forced himself to avert his gaze. If he didn't, he felt like his eyes would be absorbed by that light. Can the weather change how people act? You often hear stories about how things like atmospheric pressure can influence people's moods and physical health. For some time now, everyone has been struggling to clear the gloomy atmosphere, but any conversation was quickly cut off, and in the end, the dining hall was simply filled by the sound of the rain. Dessert was some kind of chocolate cake, accompanied by pear sherbet. Goto-san enthusiastically explained the recipe as soon as this final dish was presented. But I quickly forgot the details. The guest of honor, grandfather, was absent. The weather was horrible, and the identity of the one who'd lent Maria an umbrella remained a mystery. When dinner ended, no one felt even a bit refreshed. It was too late now, but I realized painfully the taste wasn't the only important part of the meal. The whole atmosphere was also critical. Goto-san, the supposed conductor of this musical piece, called dinner, did his best to enliven the place, dropping little jokes left and right, but apparently not one of them succeeded. After taking orders for after-dinner coffee, tea, and orange juice, he left for the kitchen. As soon as he disappeared, Uncle Kraus spoke. My, what a waste that the dinner Goto worked so hard to create has met with such gloomy atmosphere. Yes, absolutely. It just feels like nothing would taste good today. Oh, I'd like to know why you feel that way. Later on, I'll do all I can, as your older brother, to help cheer you up. Aunt Ava grimaced slightly. I had already heard she wasn't on good terms with Uncle Kraus, but it was pretty clear now. When I looked around, I noticed that my father and Aunt Rosa were also grimacing. Apparently there was something besides the weather troubling all of them. Both Aunt Ava and my dad aren't looking too happy. Really? I don't think so. I asked Aunt Natsui, who was sitting on my right, but she seemed to be in bad mood as well. She snapped back as if to say she was absolutely not interested. Well, our adult conversation got a little complicated. It isn't something kids like you need to worry about, Battler-kun. Ha 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 ha. Isn't that right, Natsui-ni-san? And Kairi-san? Uncle Hideyoshi laughed as he spoke, but without his usual brightness, so I could vaguely imagine just how complicated their adult conversation had become. On top of that, even Aunt Natsui and Kairi-san, the people he had directed his comment to, ignored him as though they hadn't heard anything. I didn't know. You know what? I made comparisons of different things in games. Like in Higurashi, I would say, while I can understand where Kei-chan comes from, I would say I am a... If I were to describe my personality in a fusion of characters, I would say my personality is a Dragon Ball Z fusion of Rena and Satoshi. And of course, I've given a long list of fusions that represent my personality. 11 main ones. I can let you guys know in the comments if you are interested. But actually, hold on. I can't remember offhand, but I got it written over there somewhere. My personality can be described as 11 fusions. One, you can see in my profile picture. Yusuke Urameshi and Sailor Moon. Number 2, Astolfo and Jack Hanma. 3, Krona Gorgon and Vash the Stampede. 4, Stein, also from Soul Eater, and Nagisa from Assassination Classroom. 5, Chip the Cable Guy, played by Jim Carrey, and Ernest, as played by Jim Varney. I had to burp. 6, Vegeta and the 2003 Guilty Gear XX Testament. Number 7, Goku and Tsukasa from Dot Hack Sign. 8, Shinji Ikari and Zelos Metallium. 9, Licked Bach Rihito and Takumi Nishijo from the Plunderer series and Chaos Head Noah. Number 10, Date, the AI Somnium Files, and Mikan Sumiki from the second Danganronpa game. And 11, Mega Man Volnut from the Mega Man Legends series, and Alucard from Team 4-Star. As far as this series, I'll say this. My personality can be most accurately described as a Dragon Ball Z fusion of Battler and Maria. I didn't know what kind of conversation they'd been having while us kids were away, but it reminded me of how Dad said he had stomach cramps when we arrived at the mansion. The family conference might have been a playful reunion to us kids, but it was definitely different for the adults. After Uncle Hideyoshi's comment was ignored by the other adults, and an awkward silence fell over the room, Kairi-san spoke up. We were talking about how the kids' careers would turn up. No, you weren't, but that is actually very well done for you to say that at the time you did. So, such is what lies in your future, Battler-kun. Will you just drift on to college? Wouldn't that be a little disheartening as a starting line for the long race of life? Hey, wait a second. Kairi-san, if you start talking about something like that in the middle of a meal, it won't digest well, and we'll all end up getting constipated. Wah! That's right. We were talking about Battler-kun and Jessica Chan's careers. You've got to think seriously about the future. Wah! Hideyoshi hardly agreed, as if they really had been talking about that, but that was probably wrong. Kairi-san had obviously been trying to change the subject. However, if Kairi-san had determined that this was the best course of action for now, then she was probably right. I agree with her. Like I said, in terms of physical appearance and personality, I like Kairi-san. At long last, the serving cart returned, filled with coffee and tea. Kumasawa-san and Chan-chan served it to everyone. Goda-san then explained that this concluded tonight's meal. If only the mood had been a bit more cheery, it might have been the best dinner in my life. It was a shame that this best of dinners couldn't have been under the best conditions. Ooh, George Oni-chan, is dinner over now? Over? Yes. With this, dinner is finished. Don't be rude. Stay in your seat and calmly drink up. Ooh. Maria looked like she was really excited by the occasional crashing thunder. I also like enjoying watching the weather. Maybe she was wanting to quickly finish eating and run over to the window. She had been fidgeting for a while, waiting for the meal to end. Some people are afraid of thunder, while others find it interesting, and Maria was apparently one of the latter sort. Therefore, when she heard from George and Nikki that dinner was over, and a huge smile broke across her face, she then rose from her seat, took out her handbag, which she had set under her seat, never having left it even while she was eating, and began fishing around inside of it. No one seemed particularly concerned by this behavior. What's that? Where did you get it? George was the first to notice it. As he spoke, Battler noticed too. They saw that Maria was holding a beautiful Western-style envelope. On the front of the envelope, the Ushiromiya family crest, the one-winged eagle, was done in gold leaf. Furthermore, the fact that it was sealed with dark red wax made it clear that this wasn't something Maria could have brought as a prank. Maria-chan, what is that? What is that? It seemed that Natsui had also noticed the strangeness of the envelope Maria was holding. Her voice sounded too serious for someone admonishing a small child, so the relatives around us finally noticed us. What happened, Natsui-san? What? Is that? Maria? Where did you pick that up? That envelope has Kinzo-san's... When Nanjo muttered that, even us kids could understand why everyone seemed to be frozen solid. The envelope that Maria held was one of the Ushiromiya family head's custom-made envelopes for private use. In other words, it can only mean one thing. This envelope contained a message from Kinzo. Oh, what is an envelope like that doing here? Now that's an interesting thing to come jumping out at us. Just let me have a peek. Ooh, no way, I'll read it. I was told to read it to everyone. Uncle Hideyoshi tried to snatch the envelope out from Maria's hands, but she protected it as though hugging it and didn't let go. Hideyoshi-san, you can't use force against a child. Maria-chan, where did you get this envelope? Ooh, I got it from Beatrice when she gave me the umbrella. She told me to read it to everyone after the meal was over. I'm the witch's messenger. Ooh. Messenger? The almighty witch of the island sure likes to mess around. Battler tried to joke about it, but no one laughed. I wonder what's written inside of it, Maria-chan. Ooh, now I would say if they didn't believe in the existence of Beatrice, obviously this thing had to have come from Kinzo, which would mean that it would have to be a servant working for Kinzo. After all, if it's not Beatrice, because if they're not willing to believe that, they would have to then assume it would have to be someone working for Kinzo or doing it on Kinzo's behalf, who then dressed or pretended to be Beatrice. So even if they're not willing to believe in magic or witches, they can at least believe that someone who looks like that, dressed like that, did so on Kinzo's request. Gonna read it! Ooh! Maria casually opened the envelope. It was sealed only with wax, so she just had to remove the sealing wax to open it. That sealing wax fell onto the desk. Hideyoshi hastily picked it up and stared fixedly at it. He then set it in the center of the table where Natsui, Kairi, and Nanjo stared at it. Imprinted on the sealing wax was the one-winged eagle, which was the Ushiromiya family crest and also Kinzo's personal crest. This is the family head's personal crest. I know it from the letters I have received from Kinzo-san before. Without a doubt, this is his wax seal. But aren't there several things in this mansion bearing that crest? For example, if there was some kind of stamp for wax seals, couldn't someone other than Kinzo-san have used it? No. Kinzo-san would always use a ring on his finger, his proof of the Ushiromiya family headship, when he sealed the wax. Oh, and he threw the ring out. Okay. This shape and complex design is definitely Kinzo-san's seal. That is not necessarily so. Anyone in the family must have received a letter from father at least once. We can't eliminate the possibility that someone used that wax as a model to create a fake seal and pass themselves off as father. I agree with Aniki. No matter how much the seal resembles Dad's, we can't prove that it's the real thing. So it doesn't prove this envelope came from him. Again, do you guys say envelope or envelope? Envelope? Envelope. I absolutely agree. I cannot approve of arbitrarily deciding that this letter came from father, based solely on the wax seal. Dr. Nanjo, couldn't you use a bit more discretion with your vague words? I apologize. It was not my place to speak. One after another, all the siblings from Kraus on downwards rejected Nanjo's statement, saying that the envelope Maria held wasn't necessarily from Kinzo. They were afraid. They feared from the bottom of their hearts that Kinzo's intentions were written in there, and that it might be some announcement regarding the inheritance that would be decidedly unfavorable to them. Maria? The person who gave you that envelope was the same person who lent you that umbrella, right? Ooh. I don't know what ooh means. Is it true? Ooh. Yes? Ooh. So, in other words, the witch, Beatrice, gave Maria Chan that envelope along with the umbrella. Ooh. Maria nodded forcefully, like a Pokemon. I agree with my husband. It's a dubious letter handed over by some suspicious person. It isn't even worth reading. There's nothing wrong with just reading it, right? Battler said it to Jessica in a small voice, trying to act tough, but Natsui heard him clearly and glared at him with threatening eyes. And then, Beatrice told you to read it after the meal was over, right, Maria? Ooh. It's okay, everyone. This envelope didn't come from Grandfather, but from Beatrice, regardless of who actually wrote it. Why can't we just hear what's inside before we decide? That's right. Even if Father didn't necessarily write it, I'd still like to know what's written inside. Maria-chan, I'm sorry I tried to take it from you by force earlier. I apologize. So, will you read it aloud in front of everyone? Maria? Read it. Ooh. As all the relatives stared fiercely at Maria, she spread the letter open with a rustle. Do you think it really did come from Dad? Impossible. Whenever Father has announced something to us in the past, he would always send Genji if he didn't do it directly, correct? I cannot believe that he would use such a joke-like approach. That's right. Maria? Messenger? That definitely doesn't suit Father's tastes. Rosa? Could this be Maria-chan trying to surprise us by putting on some kind of show? But Maria isn't really a kid who'd be capable of something so thoughtful. Gonna read it. And she's overly honest to a fault. Something I've actually been criticized of. Did kind of hurt my feelings, though. The words came out of Maria's mouth, but for some reason her voice seemed different from usual. My ear itches. Itchy ear. Okay, let's give this thing a read. Double check. Ow, my ear. Everyone went suddenly silent. Welcome to Rakanjima, members of the Ushiromiya family. I am Beatrice. The alchemist, for this family, employed by Kenzo-sama himself. Ha ha! That's crazy! Quiet! I have served him for many years in accordance with our contract, but on this day, Kenzo-sama has announced the final suspension of that contract. Therefore, I ask that you acknowledge my resignation from the position of family alchemist from this day forth. How foolish. What nonsense. I can't stand to listen to it. And now, there is one part of the contract that must be explained to all present. I, Beatrice, lent Kenzo-sama a vast quantity of gold under certain terms. One of these terms specifies that all the gold is to be returned to me upon termination of that contract. Furthermore, I am to receive everything of the Ushiromiya family as interest. Ridiculous. It's been ridiculous from the very beginning. So it's basically one of those things, right? Doesn't it sound like just one of those contracts with the devil? The contract is expired, so they've come to collect with interest. Is she trying to grab some retirement money for her old age or something? What a cheeky witch. Balorku, now isn't the time to joke around. Balor made a face and asked, "If I can't make fun of this, what can I make fun of?" Some of the adults' faces were pale, while others looked dazed. After hearing this, you may feel as though Kinzo-sama has been savagely ruthless. However, Kinzo-sama did append a special clause to the contract so that you would have a chance to preserve your wealth and honor. If and only if that special clause is fulfilled, I will lose my rights to the gold and the interest for all eternity. A special clause? What is it? Special clause. Beatrice retains the right to collect the gold and accumulated interest upon the termination of the contract. However, if someone is able to discover the hidden gold of this contract, Beatrice must abandon these rights for all time. The collection of the interest will proceed shortly, but if any one of you fulfills the terms of this special clause, I shall return everything, including the portion that has already been collected. Furthermore, as the first step in this collection of Kinzo-sama's debt, I have taken possession of the Ushiromiya family's head's ring, which signifies the passage of Ushiromiya family headship from one individual to another. I ask that you confirm this for yourselves by examining the imprint on the wax seal. Are they trying to claim that that's the meaning behind this seal? That father would relinquish his ring is unthinkable. Kraus stared at the sealing wax as if trying to burn a hole through it. Ava and Rudolph were doing the same over his shoulder. Come to think of it, when we were playing chess, I did have a strange feeling that something was missing from Kinzo-san's finger. Dr. Nanjo, don't say something so careless just because of a vague memory. We can't prove its authenticity here. Only by asking Father directly can we determine whether he really handed over his ring and whether this letter tells the truth. That's right. It's just as Kairi-san says. Do you really think Kinzo-san will tell you? After all, that person's thoughts sometimes surpass the bounds of common sense. No matter what happens, it's still nonsense. In the first place, the illusion of gold itself is one of Father's tricks. I've already heard enough talk of that gold from the rest of you. But this is the witch speaking, right? About how the inheritance and all the assets will be handed over to the one who finds the gold, right? So maybe Beatrice-sama is Father's legal advisor or in charge of his funds? But we can't possibly trust some strange person who entrusts such a suspicious paper to a child. Aniki, we need you to be frank with us. Is it possible Dad's assets are being managed with someone you don't know? No, that's impossible! As the family head's representative, I control all of Father's assets. It should be impossible for anyone to do as they please with them, without me knowing it. So this must mean there are some assets you don't control, right, Kraus-Nissan? How foolish! Such assets could not possibly exist. Oh, but there is such a thing. An asset of Father's you don't control. There is no way such a thing could exist. No, it does. It's Father's, no Beatrice's hidden gold. Let's keep it simple. In short, Dad has some trusted confidant that Aniki doesn't even know about. Furthermore, this person has always been in charge of watching and managing the gold, or it could be some eccentric rich person who offered him a loan with rules like a devil's contract. Could it be that this confidant called Beatrice is trying to test which of Kinzo's children is most worthy to be financed by her gold? Kairi's questions was one that all the siblings wanted answered. Upon reflection, they realized that Kinzo's strange epitaph had hung in the hall beneath the witch's portrait for quite some time, and while it had long been whispered that whoever solved the puzzle would receive everything, no one had ever clearly stated it. It was just something that everyone had hoped might be true, and right here, right now, the thing they'd hoped for had been clearly stated in Beatrice's letter. Beatrice. It clearly specified that everything the Ushiromi family would be given to the one who found the gold. Kinzo-sama. Her eyes are unusually wide. Huh, what about that? Kinzo-sama has already publicly displayed the location of the hidden gold within the epitaph under my portrait. The rules apply equally to all who can read the epitaph. If you discover the gold, I shall return everything to you. Tonight, I ask that you enjoy your battle of wits with Kinzo-sama to the fullest. I sincerely pray that this night will be both intellectual and elegant. Beatrice, the Golden. Father, I know you can hear me. Please respond. The door to Kinzo's study was being violently, harshly beaten against over and over again like a percussion instrument. The yells coming from the other side belonged to Kraus, Rudolph, and sometimes Ava. It was the siblings who were trying to intrude upon Kinzo's study to question about the truth behind the mysterious letter. Kinzo was eating. An elegant tablecloth was set over the desk, and the fabulous dinner that had adorned the table down the dining hall was reproduced here. Kinzo continued his meal in silence. Shannon, taking away an empty plate, looked uncomfortably between the door being pounded on and Kinzo's face. Everyone is calling for you, but what should I do? Leave them. God and my meals both hold silence as a virtue. Should I silence them? There's no need. It doesn't even reach my ears. It does not even reach my ears. Kinzo enjoyed his food, apparently indifferent. Genji quietly lowered his head and took a single step back. As he did, Kanon, who stood in reserve like a shadow behind and to the side of Genji, opened his mouth. Maria-sama apparently received a letter from Beatrice-sama, so I imagine they want to test its authenticity. Ha 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 ha! Has she started already then? Come, Beatrice. I have no shortage of coins to be wagered. Shall we enjoy this night to the fullest? I don't think I'll lose. Your smile will be mine for all eternity. If I could see it one more time, I wouldn't regret losing my wealth, my honor, or even my life. Well then, the roulette has begun to spin. Which pocket will the ball fall into? Noir? Rouge? Rogue? Rouge? Or house takes all? Come, you may begin, Beatrice. I'll show you the power of miracles once more. The strange letter that the witch had entrusted to Maria wiped all memories of dinner from our minds.